Welcome to the Widener Wordsmith, a podcast series designed to enhance and supplement legal methods here at Widener University Commonwealth Law School. I am Pam DeMartino, an Adjunct Professor of Legal Methods and the host of this series. Joining me throughout this year will be attorneys from both academia and legal practice who will provide listeners with advice and insight into the challenging process of legal writing. Well, hello, Widener Commonwealth Law students, and welcome back to another episode of the Widener Wordsmith. You know, many of the episodes are intended for our first-year law students. However, there are some topics that should be of interest to students of any year. Like today's topic, which is about how, as law students, you are also now writers. I don't think it took any of you very long to figure out when you started law school that you were going to be required to read a considerable amount of materials. And, you know, most of those materials are judicial opinions. I know that you have been assigned law review articles, journal articles. We've shared legal periodical articles with all of you. And you might have started to think that you have to be a experienced practitioner in order to have your writing actually published by someone and recognized by someone. And that simply is not the truth. You do not have to be a law school graduate, and you don't have to have a year of practice under your belt. You are writers in and of yourselves as law students, and there are reasons for you to consider publishing your work. And that is the topic of today's podcast, is publishing as a law student. You know, for a couple of very good reasons, I'm going to encourage everyone who's listening to consider this possibility. You know, first and foremost is the fact that as a law student, you have a very unique perspective on the study of law right now. And, you know, having graduated from law school in the 20th century, I can assure my listeners that things have changed. And so for those lawyers who have graduated and moved on in their careers, you have the ability through your voice to share your experience today as a law student and share with them your perspective of your legal studies that they may not have encountered, or it may not have shared the same perspective as you. Or what might also have happened, and probably is the better case, is that they've forgotten. You know, as you move on into your legal practice, your years in the law school will start to fade. And since many of your days here were challenges, it will be easy to forget. And so it's important that your voice is heard to that particular audience, but also is the opportunity for you to distinguish yourself. And by that I mean you are all going to graduate, and your resumes are going to reflect your capability and schooling in the area of law to perform the responsibilities of a lawyer. You're going to be able to apply for a multitude of different positions, and you will be qualified to assume those duties. However, so will a lot of other law students. There will be competition for the positions that are out there, and you're going to want to start now. Even my first years that are listening, you should be thinking now about how it is you're going to distinguish that resume from the other resumes that are going to make their way to the interviewer's desk. And one way is to have a section on your resume entitled Publications. And it doesn't matter that it is even just one. And it doesn't matter that it's not a novel and it's not a law review comment. It is a writing that you took on yourself to put together and to have somebody accept and put out for the public to read and to look at and to appreciate. And that in and of itself, regardless of what the topic is and what your purpose was, is going to reflect initiative and creativity and scholarship on your part. And that's going to matter. That's going to matter. And that's why I'm so excited to have my two guests here today who are going to share with us their respective experiences in having their writing published while they are attending law school here at Widener Commonwealth Law. I have with me here today Mary Anodide and Kaylee Boyer. Welcome, ladies, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join me.
Of course. Thank you.
Many of our listeners may not be familiar with exactly who you are, so if we can just take a few minutes to briefly introduce each of you. I'm going to start with Mary. I was introduced to you through Professor Schultes, who was my mentor last year as a legal methods professor, and she recommended that I invite you to come in because she was aware of the fact that you had published something over the summer. So you are in your second year here at Widener?
Yes, I am.
All right. So can you even believe that I'm saying that you're
No. No. It's crazy.
It has gone crazy busy, yes? And
yes.
fast.
Absolutely, yes, very fast.
If we go back to the earlier months before you even applied to Widener, can you recall what it is that attracted you to our program here?
Well, one of the reasons I applied to Widener, I first found it because one of my friends had actually applied. Mm-hmm. So he told me to apply here. He said it was a good school. And I think I liked it because it's small. I came from a large undergrad, so I liked the small community aspect of Widener, and I just liked that it was close to Harrisburg, so the government aspect of that as well.
It is perfectly situated, isn't it? And we do offer the smaller classes.
Which I love.
Yes,
absolutely.
Especially with our writing.
Yes, definitely. It's very helpful for that.
And Kaylee, I had the pleasure of meeting you last year. Kaylee was a student in my legal methods course. You started out as an evening division student, so perhaps you can explain where you're at right now in your academic studies.
Yep, I started my first year as an evening division student, so I was going part-time. And then this year I transferred to the regular division, so I took on more courses. I left my job just because I'm tired of being a student and I'm ready to take the full advantage of being a full-time law student and get the most out of my education. So I'm like a first and a half year, second year. I'm not sure what I'm classified as.
But you're catching up.
Yes.
You're catching up and you're moving through. And as an evening student, I'm sure you came to appreciate the unique challenges to that type of an arrangement. It's, having to work during the day and try to come in at night.
Yes, and that's why I was initially attracted to Widener, was they had an evening division program.
Exactly. That's right. Not all the schools offer that opportunity.
Correct.
All right. Well, by the very nature of the application process, you came to law school as writers, having some strong writing skills behind you. Is there anything in your background, perhaps a teacher, a course, was it, your undergraduate classes that you feel you could credit as having really developed your area of expertise in writing? Mary?
Yeah, I've always liked to write. I've always liked to read. I was an English major in undergrad, so I did a lot of writing. Mm-hmm. So coming to law school, knowing I was going to have to do a lot of writing wasn't a big change for me. So I've always enjoyed it. It's been something that I did.
As a former English major myself, I can relate to that, where, thinking, do I want to go into a field that requires communication? Do I want to go into teaching? You start to realize that one of the strong suits of a lawyer is writing, is that ability to put down in print what it is that needs to be said. And Kaylee?
Do not have an English background, but as more of an introvert, this is weird, but I enjoy connecting with people, but I'm not good at orally communicating with people. Okay. So it's much easier for me to communicate thoughts or certain lessons via writing. Plus my propensity to edit, I can perfect what it is I'm trying to say instead of stumbling all over my words in the conversation. Well,
the other strong suit, if it's not writing, it's speaking. That's what we do as lawyers, and that will certainly come, Kaylee, as you continue on in practice. They kind of go hand in hand. In the midst of your very busy schedules, at some point, you decided that you had something to say. We'll just start with that. Because really that's where writing starts. You have an idea, you have a thought, something pulls and tugs at your brain, and you realize there's something I want to say here. and you start to put it down in print. And so what I'm really interested today in sharing with the listeners is how that inspiration came to you, and what really motivated you to pursue this interest in having something published. I'll invite either of you. Kaylee, Mary?
Well, for me, it was over the summer. Professor Schultes, I was her research assistant, and we hadn't started doing anything for that yet, and she emailed me and asked me if I wanted to write a piece for the Appellate Advocacy blog, which is what I ended up doing. And she told me that I had a little bit of freedom on what I wanted to write about. It just had to do with appellate advocacy. So I just thought it would be a really great opportunity. I had the time, which was nice because it was in the summer. So I did have that opportunity while I wasn't under a lot of school stress, which was nice, which was one of the main reasons that I was all in on it as well. And I just thought it was a great opportunity to, have my voice heard, get a piece out there that I could be a little more creative with it.
All right, and your article is entitled, the guest post, "Cut the New Kid Some Slack, Even If That New Kid Is You." I love the title. It's
Professor Schultes helped me with that. I'm not great with titles, so I gotta give her
titles are really important.
They are, and they're the hardest part for me sometimes, so I gotta give her a little credit.
Grabs your attention and, invites the reader in. What I have to say I found really fascinating about your article, though, is, let's back up. It's about your experience in the oral argument first year.
Yes. It is.
However, it's not the typical, let me tell you about this horrible experience that I lived through, and you're going to live through it yourself as well, right? There's a lot of articles that are out like there, and they're important. Where we encourage our first years, please read whatever you need to, and you're all going to be fine. Yours offers a very different perspective because you have a different intended audience here. Specifically, I'm going to quote from your article. Here you are talking. What I'm believing is intended for practitioners, for those attorneys that are already out and about and who are going to be encountering some of our recent graduates or newer attorneys. And you write, "Next time you encounter an inexperienced attorney who appears to be struggling with nerves or confidence, try to remember a time when you were in the same situation and felt the same way." I love that because, as I said at the very beginning of the podcast, many attorneys simply forget what it was like to be a law student and to be learning all these new concepts and theories and skills. And I'm just wondering, what gave you that idea to kind of twist this topic in a way that you're going to reach beyond the walls of the law school?
Well, part of it was that the Appellate Advocacy blog is out there for other attorneys to read as well. So it's a bigger scope than just law students. So I wanted to be able to attract all people to read this article rather than just, prospective first years doing their oral argument. And I just thought it was important for them to remember, because thinking about my oral argument experience, I was so nervous just being up there in front of a professor or two, and just thinking about what it's going to be like in the future in front of other attorneys that have been practicing. I felt like it was really important to just kind of ground everybody from my perspective, so keep them at a level.
Well, and you did a marvelous job.
Thank
it's
you.
Such a nice read, from the beginning to the end. You make your point very clearly, but gently, just sort of nudging, the practitioners to just sort of remember we all went through this and we all, we all had to endure the same experience. And it's going to happen as you move on as a new practitioner. You're going to need just a little bit of patience and understanding as you make your way. So you raise a good point, is that as you're thinking about what it is that you might be able to write about, you should think about your audience. Okay, not only do I have this idea about this topic, but who would want to read it? Who would it might be intended for? So that's, and as an English major, you would, I think, agree with me on that. Audience is really important.
Definitely.
Kaylee's article is somewhat different in that it was published in the Young Lawyers Division newsletter. Do I have that?
Yeah, it's a newsletter within the Pennsylvania Bar Association's publications.
And it's more content-based.
Yes.
I would say, if nothing else, it's based on one of the particular courses that we require, I wouldn't say offer, we require of our first years. And her article is titled, Why Civil Procedure is Much More Than the Worst Part of Your 1L Year.
Yes.
So that also is such a wonderful title, because how would you not want to say, yes, I agree with you, I want to read more. So what inspired you to address this particular topic?
So it was a number of things. I received an email from the PBA YLD. Maybe it was spam, maybe not, but it just said, we're looking for writers. Give us, 2,000 words about something that's important to law students or young lawyers. It can be about anything. And before I came to law school, I was a paralegal for 10 years, and so I had a lot of exposure to civil procedure and the actual importance that it has in the legal profession. And so marrying the two of learning about it and actually, having the practical aspect of it first, I remember sitting through class like, how would any of this make sense to anybody that hasn't ever even seen a complaint? Thinking about maybe first-year students that don't have a legal background, and hearing my classmates be like, oh, this is so boring, I don't get it. How is joinder ever going to be important? Who cares about incorporating somebody else? Or if I file it late, that's all right. And so I was like, no, this is really important, because a lot of younger students that haven't had the experience of the practical aspect just think civil procedure is a brush-off course that, it's not that important, it's the first class I have to take my first semester, big deal. But it does permeate your everyday practice when you are a lawyer.
Okay, so yes, it's not removed at all from the legal practice that's there. And if I may, I'm going to quote from your article.
Sure.
You come in at the very end. Most importantly, though, you will recognize civil procedure as the nucleus of practicing law. Your initial ambivalence for the subject matter will slowly evolve into an appreciation for an organized system that governs the profession. So well stated that... I don't know how many can argue with that. But here again, also it's clear that your intended audience are the law students that are sitting there in that class now, trying to make sense of it.
Yes,
as it goes on. Then you came up with these ideas. You were, attracted by Kaylee, an email that came in from the Bar Association, and Mary, had a professor, to reach out, and so you put together your writing. And, what was the publication process like then, from that point forward? Then what happened? What can students expect?
For the PBA, it was really easy. They sent an email and just said, here's the 4 criteria, here's the deadline, email us and we'll let you know. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I emailed it over, I think one of the editors is actually a Widener alum, and he responded.
Nice.
Yeah, he responded right away and was like, this is great, thanks so much. We don't see a lot of Widener students submit to us. So, Widener students, please.
Please, there's a shout out, yes.
Yeah, so he was like, this is a great article. I'll send it to our editing team and I'll get back to you with edits, if any, and it'll be published in our spring edition.
Okay.
And then a few months passed and I got the link that said it's been published.
and there you were.
Yeah, there it was.
And Mary, how did the blog work?
For me, it was also very simple. Professor Schultes emailed me and we actually spoke on the phone kind of about ideas that I could go through, and then, because it was over the summer. And then I just started writing about the topic that I chose, and I sent her a draft. She sent me back her edits. I sent her another draft, and it kind of just went back and forth for a little while. And then once my final draft was due, a couple weeks later, she also emailed me with the link to my blog and said it was published.
And it was published, and there you were. And so both of you have shared the fact that you can expect to have your work edited, like there will be an editor involved, and understanding that the role of the editor is not the same as that of the professor of levying a grade on your work. It's to help improve the writing, and sometimes it's because there might be some mechanical issues, grammatical issues, conventions and things. But a lot of the time, it's just because of the platform that you've chosen. That writing a blog is different than writing for a journal or writing for a newsletter. And so depending on the type of the platform that's involved, the editor might help you fashion it in such a way. And so you don't have to know all of that ahead of time, correct? Just... really need to follow the directions, the instructions that you're given, and you would push it out. And really, what was the worst thing that could possibly have happened when you sent your work out at that point? What were you risking?
That it wouldn't get published.
Right? It didn't cost you anything. There's usually never a fee involved in submitting your published work. And the worst thing that could happen is someone saying thanks, but no thanks. You know, we're simply not interested. And then we move on as lawyers, because we're thick-skinned. So we say fine, and we'll look for another opportunity. I can share that now I'm looking to see if we can arrange through our law school publications to afford students the opportunity to have some writing published. And so I'm, reaching out to the powers to be. I might be told no, it's not going to work. It's not something that might be able, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. And so then in doing so, you both then also fulfilled the prophecy I started off with, and that is you are already working towards distinguishing yourself upon graduation. Now, aside from, I think, the whole experience of writing and seeing your name in print, which, let me back up and invite you to share that. What's that feeling like?
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'd say it's great.
It is great. There is something to be said about seeing your name in print there. But you now have that line on your resume where you get to, present yourself as, as writers, but also as students that are interested in promoting yourself and promoting your ideas and getting your voice out there. So I congratulate you both.
Thank you
on that endeavor. And so in putting this together with my intended audience, and that being other students that are listening, what kind of advice might you give in terms of thinking about this process and going about getting something published?
I would say one of the biggest things is talk to your professors. I think that they have a lot of good opportunities. I mean, mine came through Professor Schultes. And I think that if you have a topic you're interested in, go and talk to the professor that teaches that area or is interested in that area as well, because they are probably your best shot in the school, at least, at having an opportunity.
And not only that, to your point, the professors are very well connected.
That too.
In the publishing world, in terms of just knowing what publications are available, what opportunities are suited for students. Not all publications are really available, for law students, but they could help you with that.
Absolutely.
And Kaylee?
I guess this advice would be more geared toward evening division students. It is difficult to be involved in resume boosting activities such as moot court or law review, which is another reason why I was attracted to submitting an article for publication, because it shows that I actually was involved while in law school, at least the best of my ability. It was easy. It, distinguishes me from my peers. It shows I had this initiative to do something extra than working in school.
Oh, what a great point, because you are right, because you are somewhat limited just by time of what it is you can involve yourself. And to Mary's point, this is something that could be done over break or over summer when you have just a little bit of downtime and you're not tied up with the studies. You can at least work on putting it together and then submit when that opportunity presents itself. Do either of you have any future plans of writing? Has this inspired you to continue looking for opportunities to write?
It has. I actually submitted another article to the YLD. Hopefully it will be published in their publication that comes out in January.
All right.
He got back to me again right away and said, all right, this is great. I'll get it to the editors. So
why not?
Yep.
Why not? You have found a niche there. So
yes,
I would keep doing that. And
I'm on law review this semester, so I've been focusing a lot of my writing on that. I'm writing my comment this semester.
Okay, so
it's a lot of work.
That is a lot of work, and that's a different type of writing. But
very different, but even different than legal writing, which I was surprised when I found out what the comment was. So it's been a lot of work, so that's where a lot of my writing energy has been going.
Yes, but there again, you will complete something that will have the potential to be shared and published.
Yes, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, I again thank both of you for coming in to talk with me about your experiences, and I'm hoping that we've inspired those, a student or two who are listening to really consider writing something for publication.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I thank my listeners for joining me again today, and I look forward to the next episode of the Widener Wordsmith podcast series. This podcast series was made possible by a generous grant award from the Association of Legal Writing Directors and the collaborative and creative support of the Legal Methods faculty at Widener University Commonwealth Law School.
Widener University Commonwealth Law School is the Pennsylvania capital's only law school, with 3 specialized centers of legal scholarship through its Law and Government Institute, Environmental Law and Sustainability Center, and Business Advising Program. Widener Law Commonwealth offers an exceptional learning experience that is personal, practical, and professional. Visit commonwealthlaw.widener.edu for more information.